Welcome to another exciting episode of Game Publishers Do Impossibly Stupid Shit. On today's episode, we have a special guest star. Everyone please put your hands together for the reigning champion of gaming idiocy, EA. Now today's topic is microtransactions, which, suck. But thanks to EA, we're gonna have to talk about it. I mean, it doesn't matter. I still think it would be good to have a conversation about it anyway. But in case you haven't heard, EA is putting microtransactions in Star Wars Battlefront 2, and Reddit is, justifiably, losing its fucking shit over it. Now, it's a pretty long-held opinion that DLC is bad when exploited, and that microtransactions are basically the epitome of how bad DLC can get and how greedy game companies can get. But, I want to talk about what would be a good way to fix it. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've come up with 3 questions that I want to ask and get answers to. When are microtransactions bad? When are microtransactions good? And what makes microtransactions good? Now, there's a bunch of games that I can talk about to, get into this entire argument, but I feel like the first game that we need to talk about is Overwatch. Overwatch got super fucking popular super quickly. Granted, it's Team Fortress 2, but that doesn't mean it doesn't deserve its success. The gameplay is super fun, the characters are visually stunning, the entire game is well polished, and it's a good game. But the important thing here, for the purpose of this conversation, is that Overwatch has loot boxes, and those little fuckers have been bankrolling Blizzard to the end of fucking time. Overwatch isn't the first video game to have done this. There's plenty of other mobile games, mostly, that have put in, something like the loot boxes, where you can pay money to get the chance to get the thing you want. But this was the point when most AAA developers actually noticed that microtransactions can work, because Blizzard did it, and now they're rolling in money. Don't need to look into it any further than that. That's all we need to know, right? Except that's not all you need to know, because there's a fucking logic to microtransactions that AAA developers haven't fucking learned. Remember Team Fortress 2? That game that Overwatch ripped off / was inspired by? The game that also has microtransactions and has become a hat-wearing simulator because of it? The fucking towers of hats? The memes that are nothing but hats? Remember those fucking hats that you buy with real money? Those hats have been bankrolling Valve to the end of fucking time as well. Also Steam, but mostly the hats. The point here is the hats. And what about MMOs? By default, MMOs have to accommodate a huge number of players, so they need a steady flow of income to keep the servers running. Which, they usually cover this with a subscription fee, which is fine. It's not a big deal. It sucks, but whatever. It's understandable. But then there are some MMOs that get rid of the subscription fee and go free to play. And you think, oh, hey, maybe now I can actually try this game out. Except that's not what happens, because they have to accommodate for the subscription fee with microtransactions. And that's when the games go to shit. You know what I used to play? And I mean, I really used to love playing this game, and it was really fun to me and stuff. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now, this is a Star Wars MMO made by BioWare and published by EA. You're seeing a trend here. And this was single-handedly my favorite MMO for the longest time, because this was basically my dream MMO. This was a Star Wars MMO made by BioWare, and having grown up playing the Knights of the Old Republic games, that was basically all I wanted out of an MMO, because at the time it was basically just WoW, and that's it. And, the game didn't bother me. It was published by EA, but it didn't bother me at the time. There was a subscription fee, but I didn't mind it because the game was fun, and the microtransactions weren't intrusive, and I could just enjoy the game without ever having to pay anything more than the subscription fee. Then the game went free to play, and suddenly half the fucking game was missing. Chat wasn't unlocked until level 10 for some reason. Level progression is halved by a half or 2/3, I don't remember specifically. You could only get 2 crew skills in a game that was designed around having 3 that all 3 of them work together, so if you don't have that 3rd one, crew skills are basically worthless, and the 3rd one is locked behind the subscription fee, which was the problem right there. Half the game's features that it needed to function, were locked behind the paywall. And you know what? I know what you're asking yourself at this point. Lewis, you were already paying for a subscription, why don't you just pay for a subscription again? I mean, you were already doing that, right? Well, that's fair. I was doing that. But that was before I found out that EA was willing to hold the fucking game hostage over it. Let me put it this way. If you're paying someone to be your security detail, and, you know, they've been doing a good job so far, you're pretty content, and then you tell them that, you know, they're done, you don't need them anymore, you're in a pretty good place. But then the security detail threatens you with, you know, what could happen if we're gone? You don't know. You might not be alive. And, you know, basically holding your security hostage when you try to leave. I mean, would you want to keep paying them after that? I mean, you could. Nothing would functionally change. You would still have the same thing. You would still have the same security detail you had before. But now you have to live with the knowledge that they are willing to fucking hold their services hostage for you because they are pieces of shit that just want your money. And the trust is gone. And that's the fucking problem there. The trust is gone. Microtransactions aren't supposed to be super intrusive because they're not supposed to be a part of the core experience. They're supposed to be a fun little aside that you can sink money into if you want, but they should not stop you from playing the core game. You shouldn't have to keep paying more money to play the game that you already bought. You don't go to the supermarket so the supermarket can force you to buy the Snickers at the checkout aisle. You go to the supermarket to buy the stuff you need, and if you feel like it, you buy a Snickers. I shouldn't have to buy a fucking Snickers so that I can buy rice to make for dinner. No one cares about microtransactions in Overwatch and Team Fortress 2 because you don't need them to enjoy the game. You don't need to buy new characters, new maps, or new game modes. They're in the game from the very start, so you can enjoy it without the microtransactions. People buy shit in Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch for the silly cosmetic shit that has absolutely no consequence on the game itself. It's just there to make you look pretty or whatever the hell you want. You could go the entirety of Overwatch without opening a single loot box, and you can go the entirety of Team Fortress 2 without ever buying a fucking hat. Because it's not intrusive. Because it's not necessary. Because it's just there if you want it. And that's why it works. Contrast that with Shadows of War, or, you know, Battlefront 2. Two games that shoved in loot boxes and microtransactions because they explicitly want more money. They're not a fun little aside that you can sink money into so that you can, I don't know, make Darth Vader look all silver or give Luke Skywalker a different costume or whatever. They're a core part of the game. You need them to unlock key features of the game, to unlock your hero characters in Battlefront 2 specifically, because I didn't play Shadows of War, because of microtransactions. I mean, you can technically unlock everything in the game if you just put enough time into it, so you don't technically need money. That's the argument that DICE is making. But you want to know how many hours you would have to put into the game to unlock everything? 4,500 hours. I said dollars, but I meant hours. That's over a year and a half. Or you can just unlock everything with $2,100. Does that sound fun? Does the other option sound fun? Do either of these options sound fun or appealing or like you want to give them money in the first place? EA is trying to suck more money out of you. It's that simple. And they can afford to do that because they have the exclusive rights to Star Wars game development thanks to Disney. There is literally no risk involved for them. No one else is going to step up to make another Star Wars game because they have the exclusive rights. And if someone else tries, they'll just get shot down by Disney. There's no risk at all because they have no competition. They have no one to lose the license to. And theoretically, you could boycott the game and, you know, just not give them your money, which I'm just gonna not buy it because it doesn't interest me, because it sucks my money. But that's not going to work because Star Wars is a huge and recognizable brand, and Reddit is really just a blip on the radar here. There's really nothing that you can do unless the word gets out to the general public, and that's hard. So we're stuck with this because EA is literally holding Star Wars hostage. They're not interested in making a good game. They're interested in getting as much money out of it as they can. Now, I can't speak about DICE themselves, the developers of the game. Maybe they actually do want to make a good game, and there are hints of a fun game buried underneath all the microtransactions. But EA doesn't care about that. EA just wants your money. And it's bullshit, it's unfair, and it's purely motivated by greed. But most importantly, it completely destroys any goodwill you could develop with the consumer, which is kind of the problem. It destroys the trust. And without the trust, you cannot afford to ask the consumer for more money. So they're not going to want to give it to you. Fun fact, the last time I saw a game that was this bad about its microtransactions was Final Fantasy All the Bravest for mobile phones. The game itself, originally, cost money to get, and the entire game was centered around being able to make a team out of all the Final Fantasy characters that you like, you know, making your dream team and fighting monsters and whatever and stuff like that. But to actually unlock the Final Fantasy characters, you had to pay 99 cents for every character that you wanted. And you didn't unlock the character, you unlocked the chance to get that character. And if the character died in battle, they're dead for good, unless you paid real money to bring them back to life. Tell me that doesn't sound stupid. Final Fantasy All the Bravest was so intensely greedy and was so badly criticized that you could make an argument that this game single-handedly shocked all mobile developers into making their games free to play to avoid that kind of backlash. And I feel like if people make enough noise, that Star Wars Battlefront 2 could be the next game that shows developers what unchecked greed gets you.